What's up, YouTube? Tristan Blaze here again for another Legacy deck tech. This is an Affinity variant that once in a while I'll put it together and I'll play it. It's not it's not really my go-to Affinity variant. Primarily when I play Affinity, it's the Affinity deck tech that I posted a while back on my channel. But this one, it's a fun little variant of Affinity that I believe is called Stoneforge Affinity. I believe it is. It's a little bit different than my other deck. My other deck was, primarily, it was beat down just like this deck is, but this is more of a beat down with a lot of weenies as well. So let's get started. For basically our first turn drops, you got your 4 Ornithopters, your 4 Memnites, your 4 Signal Pests, which give you the Battle Cry ability, along with, your 3 Signal Pests, along with your 3 Vault Scourges, which you can pay the 2 life for the Phyrexian mana. It's got Flying and Lifelink, which really help when it gets equipped. So these are your turn 1 drops. Predominantly, that's what you're going to be. Normally, you have 14 of these. You have 14 turn 1 drops, basically. You're normally going to get at least 1 in your opening hand, probably. Sometimes more than that. I've had openers where it's been like, Thopter, Memnite, Signal Pest with Land and Mox Diamond. Not Mox Diamond, Land and Mox Opal. So it's been like ridiculously just like, oh, hey, guess what? Flood the board real quick. It's like a weenie swarm almost, and it can do a lot of damage really quick, because backing them up you got 2 Ravagers. Because you hit really late game, these are basically gonna be, some of these are just gonna be fodder for Ravagers, okay, just to pump up Ravagers. But you got your 2 Ravagers, you got your 2 Masters of Ethereum, which will beef them up. I would prefer to go with 1 more of these, but I don't know what to take out to add another copy. We then got our 3 Etched Champions for more, unblockable protection from all color, protection from all color goodness at least. 4 Thoughtcast to just dig deeper into the deck, and we got our 2 Tezzerets for that combo style finish. And then we move into why it's called Stoneforge Affinity. 4 Stoneforge Mystics, 4 Cranial Platings. Now, you can, if you get a really good opening hand, you can get a bunch of those, you can get a bunch of Memnites and Thopters on turn 1, and as long as you have a land and a Mox Opal, or, a land and a Springleaf Drum, and a Mox Opal or something like that, you can get a Stoneforge Mystic out on turn 1, tutor up your plating, and then just drop it into play the next turn, and then hopefully you have another mana available to equip it to just one of those things up there and just start swinging for the fences. One of your fallback plans outside of the pump them all with Master of Ethereum, Signal Pest, or Etched Champion Ravager beatdowns, and of course our combo Tezzeret finish, is simply using Inkmoth Nexus. Infect is a pain in the ass to deal with. I know I'm building green-black Infect right now. You only got to pump up Inkmoth for 9. You're playing a deck that has an assload of artifacts. Getting to 9 should not be a problem. You have more than 9 lands that are artifacts. It should be pretty easy to get to that 9 to just pump Inkmoth with the Cranial Plating. Now, to help our mana base, because we're running white, we're running blue, we're running black, we have our 4 Springleaf Drums, 4 Glimmer Voids, 4 Seed of the Synods, 4 Vault of Whispers, 4 Ancient Dens, and our 3 Mox Opals. This is a very powerful mana base. It might look like crap, but anybody who's actually played Affinity knows this is a really good mana base. Because you can get those opening turns where it's just like land, Springleaf Drum, Opal, and, creature. And then Thoughtcast on turn 1. That's a pretty that's a pretty strong play on turn 1. And with your Stoneforge Mystic cranial plating package, you can just tutor up your cranial plating and just slap it into play, because basically you're running 8 copies of cranial plating. And you know, even if you only get one, even if you only draw one Stoneforge Mystic, any other copy of cranial plating can just be dropped right into play with the Stoneforge Mystic, just like that. You get around counter spells. All you got to worry about is Stifle Effects, Pithing Needle, Revoker, you know, things like that. But, you know, dropping a plating onto a Vault Scourge with Lifelink, that's going to extend the game a lot faster. That's going to give you time to draw into an Etched Champion, or an Arcbound Ravager, or a Tezzeret, and just say, okay, I +1 and say go, and then untap and -4 and just combo you out and win. Because I've done it that way too. So this is a variant of Affinity. It's not really something I normally want to run, but if people are, say, getting used to the Affinity deck that I actually did post months ago back on my channel, I do like to switch to this one every once in a while, because it kind of just keeps people guessing. They go, I'm playing Affinity, and they've already memorized what's in the deck. Well, now I come out with Ancient Den and Stoneforge Mystic, and they realize, oh, this is different. And it kind of throws them for a loop, because now they don't know what the hell I'm playing. They know it's Affinity, but they don't know what the hell's in it now. So you got to keep your opponent. Guessing a little bit. I mean, with certain decks, it's kind of hard to. With Burn, it's you're playing Burn. We know what you're running basically. The only difference is, do you run Fetches and Grim Lavamancers or not? Now moving on to the sideboard, it's basically the same as my old sideboard. You got 1 Crypt, 2 Relics, 1 Pithing Needle, 3 copies of Oxidize, 2 Oblivion Rings, 2 Mindbreak Traps for your combo matchups. But because I didn't have any type of Revokers in the main deck, I took out my Tidehollow Scullers that were in the sideboard and threw in the Revokers, because the Scullers are great, I love them, but I didn't want to go more of the control route when I had to board in cards. I wanted to go and keep it more of an aggro route, and also hit certain permanents that my opponents might have. Hit a Charbelcher if I could on turn 1, or an Aether Vial, or get anything, Mox, Diamond, LED, what have you. Hit anything I possibly could with these Revokers. That's why they're in the deck instead of Tidehollow Sculler. Now, this being an Affinity variant, I like it. It's more of a swarm build, where the other version of Affinity was, it had removal, it had the pump, but it had more beef on it. It had the 4 Ravagers, the 4 Champions, It was more designed as a deck that was just going to ramp up mana with Ancient Tombs and just start dropping beat sticks left and right and just demolishing you. This is more of a weenie build, though. Your basic priority is to really early just flood the board with a bunch of stuff, a bunch of crazy stuff. Memnites, Thopters, Past Scourges, just start dropping them. If you can get by with paying the life, and dropping 2 Vault Scourges on turn 1, do it. Because, you get that cranial plating out next turn, it's going to be just, I'm going to gain a boatload of life back. So it's really good. At the same time, you got your Tezzerets. You can animate Inkmoth Nexus. You can -1 Tezzeret and make your Inkmoth a 5/5 artifact creature, which will still have Infect. Now, normally I really wouldn't do that, because Tezzeret primarily is just a combo kill for me. But in terms of if I cannot target my opponent with Tezzereth's ultimate ability, just dealing the damage is good enough. Just dealing the damage with Ink Moth is it's almost as good as just comboing out my opponent. So this is your Stoneforge Affinity build. The reason why this build used to be pretty decently popular is because Stoneforge Mystic at one point in time was not like $30 freaking or something. I mean, I think Stoneforge Mystic is still like 20, 25 or something right now. It might have jumped up even more. I don't know. I really don't check the card prices of cards that I own. I check the card prices of cards that I want to buy. Which really shocked me when I had like one LED that I bought years ago for $5 and then checked the card prices when I wanted to buy the other two, and they were like $70 or something. But this is a pretty decent affinity build. It's pretty fast. It really can win the game really quickly, or just really just put the game out of reach quickly if you're in a relatively low-powered area. Damn, these bugs, man. Summertime, it is a pain out here. So this is my Stoneforge Affinity build. Once in a while I run it. I would not run it all the time. I like it, but it's not really something I would run all the time, though. I prefer to stick to my older Affinity variant. It's got more ability to kind of... It has the ability to deal with, like, stronger decks, especially decks that have, like, 4 Goyfs, 4 Knight of the Reliquies, things like that. This is primarily a deck that you would play casually, I would say, in Legacy, or if you're on a budget. But it is still a good variant of Affinity. It really is a... Damn flies. It is a good variant of Affinity. I like it. I love how Affinity has some variants. And, this is a really good one. Plus, at the same time, you want to get creative with a deck like this. Look at that card, Stoneforge Mystic. Start, get some insane crap. Get a Sword of Fire and Ice. Get a Sword of Body and Mind. A Batterskull. Manriki Gusari. An Umezawa's Jit. Stick them in the board. Or go, singleton, tutorable, whatever, equipment you want in the main deck. Hell, Argentum Armor. Go with that. Give your creatures Annihilator 6 if you want to. You could have some fun with a deck like this. Especially, hell, even in tournaments, you can have some fun and just wreck people with it if you know how to play it. So, for Stoneforge Affinity, I would play it, but I would prefer my original Affinity variant. To me, it feels more powerful. It feels more like Affinity than this does. This feels more like Affinity with some type of toolbox approach to it. I like toolbox approach decks. I like them because you can have some really fun stuff. But I'm not 100% sold on just running this deck. But I wanted to show this deck to you guys and girls on YouTube, because this is another variant of Affinity that can be ran in Legacy if you know what you're doing, if you know your matchups, you know how to... And this sideboard right here, it's not optimal, by the way. If you know how to board in properly, you know how to properly build the sideboard, you're going to have a better chance at a tournament than I would going with this deck. So... this has been Tristan Blades with another Legacy deck tech. You want to see more deck techs? Like, comment, subscribe, share it on Facebook, Twitter, whatever other social media you have, and let me know. Let me know if there's any decks that you guys want me to post, historic decks, and, I'll see what I can do, see what I can, see what cards I can get, see if I already have them. Anyways, thank you. And until our next deck tech, keep spamming that like button.